Thinking long-term is like planting a seed. At the beginning, there is no fruit, no shade, no visible result. There is only faith, the trust that, over time, it will grow. Many people give up because they want immediate results. It's like digging up the soil every day to check if the seed has already become a tree. But true growth happens first in the invisible. Now think about Jacob. He worked 7 years for Rachel, was deceived, and decided to work 7 more. That is a long-term mindset. He understood something powerful. The value of what he wanted justified the waiting time. In financial life, this means investing with patience, not chasing quick gains at any cost, staying consistent even when results don't appear yet. Those who think long-term act with faith and consistency because they know deep roots sustain great results. Quick gains may happen, but real wealth is built with time, discipline, and vision. 2. Seek wisdom daily, especially in finances. The Bible teaches something essential. Wisdom is more precious than rubies. Book of Proverbs. Seeking wisdom daily is like using a map on a journey. Money is important, but without direction, you can end up in the wrong place even while moving forward. It's also like holding the steering wheel of a car. Without wisdom, even those with money lose control. With wisdom, you drive your life safely. Reading and reflecting every day works like constantly adjusting your route. Small daily corrections prevent big mistakes in the future, including financial ones. Remember Solomon. He did not ask for wealth, he asked for wisdom. And that is like someone who learns to make good decisions instead of just chasing money. Seeking wisdom is like sharpening the axe before working. You become more efficient, make fewer mistakes, and grow more consistently. In the end, the truth is simple. Money is a consequence. Wisdom is the foundation. Practicing the principle of tithing and generosity. Practicing tithing is, above all, an act of faith, not of salvation. Salvation does not come from money or works, but from grace. Tithing does not buy anything spiritual. It is like a gesture of trust, similar to giving away a portion of the harvest before even knowing what the next season will be like. Self-control. Self-control is like holding the reins of a strong horse. The horse represents your desires, impulses, and emotions. It has power, and that's not a bad thing. But without direction, that same strength can take you anywhere, often somewhere you never intended to go. With control, that power becomes purpose. It carries you exactly where you've decided to go. It's also the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. A thermometer simply reacts to the environment. A thermostat sets the environment. People without self-control react to whatever they feel in the moment. People with self-control choose their response, regardless of the situation around them. The Bible teaches that self-control is part of spiritual character. In the book of Galatians, it is described as a fruit of the Spirit, something that grows within a person over time, not something forced but developed. In everyday financial life, self-control shows up in small, quiet moments. It's when you see something you want, feel the pull to buy it, but pause. You give yourself space to think before acting. That gap between desire and decision, that's where self-control lives. It's similar to following a diet. It's not about never feeling tempted, it's about choosing, again and again, what aligns with your long-term well-being instead of what satisfies you for a few minutes. Think about Joseph in Egypt. He had moments where acting on impulse would have been easier, even justifiable, but he chose restraint. That's what self-control looks like, choosing integrity over convenience, even when no one is watching. Financially, self-control means not spending to satisfy temporary emotions, learning to wait before making important decisions, staying disciplined, especially when it's uncomfortable, choosing long-term stability over short-term pleasure. It's like building an internal braking system. Without it, every impulse turns into action. With it, you gain the ability to choose, and that changes everything. In the end, self-control isn't about restriction. It's about freedom with direction. Because if you don't learn to govern yourself, your emotions, circumstances, and impulses will do it for you. We can see this principle throughout the Bible, especially in texts like the Book of Malachi, which present tithing as an expression of trust in God. It is like a farmer who sets aside the first seeds to plant again. He does not do this because he has extra, but because he believes in the process. Tithing carries this mindset, putting God first, even before seeing the results. Now, think about the principle of sowing and reaping. Everything in life works this way. You reap what you sow, not only in quantity, but also in quality. This principle appears clearly in the book of Galatians. Whatever a person sows, that he will also reap. Giving is like planting seeds in the right soil. Not every harvest is immediate, and it does not always come in the same form, but there is always a return. It may be financial, it may be opportunities, peace, connections, or growth. Generosity, in turn, is like opening a flow. When you hold everything back, it is like stagnant water, it begins to stop moving. When you give, you create movement, and things tend to circulate and grow. In practical financial life, this teaches prioritizing God above money, developing discipline and detachment, trusting the long term, not just the immediate, understanding that prosperity is not only about accumulating, but also about distributing, and most importantly, you do not give to receive, you give because you trust. The return is a consequence, not the motivation. In the end, tithing and generosity are not about loss. They are about aligning the heart, strengthening faith, and living a principle that goes beyond money. Those who plant with purpose reap with meaning. Being faithful in the small things. Being faithful in the small things is like taking care of a young plant. It's not a tree yet. It doesn't give abundant fruit or much shade. But if you neglect it now, it will never become what it was meant to be. What is small, when well cared for, is what eventually becomes great. Jesus teaches this principle in the parable of the talents in the Gospel of Matthew. The ones who were faithful with little were entrusted with more. The one who neglected what he had ended up losing even that. Think of it like managing a modest income. A lot of people say, when I earn more, then I'll get organized. But life doesn't really work that way. The truth is, the way you handle a little already reveals how you would handle a lot. It's also like training with light weights. At first, it can feel almost insignificant, but it's that steady, repeated effort that builds the strength needed to carry heavier loads later on. In financial life, being faithful in the small things looks like paying attention to your spending, even when your income is limited, setting aside a small amount consistently, even if it feels like it won't make a difference, honoring your commitments, no matter how minor they seem, resisting waste and impulsive decisions. It's really about building a foundation. No one starts at the top of a building. Every strong structure exists because someone took the first brick seriously. There's also something deeper behind this. God is not only concerned with what you want to have, but with how you manage what you already have. Faithfulness in the small things isn't about quantity, it's about character. In the end, those who despise small beginnings rarely sustain greater things. But those who honor what is in their hands today are the ones who are prepared to receive and sustain what comes tomorrow. Being just and upright. Being just and upright is like building a house on solid rock. It may take longer, require more effort, and feel harder at the beginning. but it's what keeps everything standing when the storms come. This principle is strongly emphasized in the Book of Proverbs, where we see that integrity sustains the path of the righteous, while dishonest shortcuts eventually lead to ruin. It's also like using a well-calibrated scale. To be just is to weigh things accurately, without bias, without manipulation, without bending the truth to your own advantage. It's choosing what is right, even when no one is watching. Think about Job. He held on to his integrity even in the middle of deep loss and suffering. That's what real integrity looks like. Continuing to do what is right, even when there's no immediate reward, no applause, and no visible benefit. In financial life, integrity shows up in how you deal with others. It's about being transparent in your business, refusing to deceive, and not taking unfair advantage. Sometimes it may seem like those who cut corners get ahead faster, but what they build rarely lasts. It's also like signing an invisible contract with yourself. You decide who you are, independent of circumstances, and then you live in alignment with that decision every single day. In practice, this means being honest in how you earn and negotiate, keeping your word and honoring commitments, refusing illegal or unethical shortcuts, doing what is right even when no one is watching. Integrity is like a reputation built in silence. It takes time to grow, but once it's solid, it opens doors, builds trust, and creates opportunities that last. In the end, being just and upright may not seem like the fastest path, but it's the only path that can sustain real, lasting growth. Because wealth without character doesn't endure, but character has the power to build wealth that does. The world demands more. It demands it faster. It demands it bigger. Every morning begins with the same relentless pressure to outpace the day before. We chase breakthroughs. We hunt for the sudden, massive win that will finally settle the score. But look at the landscape of your own life. When the noise dies down and the screens go dark, what remains? We have mistaken intensity for progress, forgetting that a sprint is not a strategy for a marathon. The ancient world understood something we have largely discarded, that enduring foundations are not built in the glare of the spotlight. They are laid in the quiet, uncelebrated habits that go unnoticed by the crowd. We are running ourselves ragged, yet the structure of our lives feels increasingly fragile. If we keep chasing the next peak without securing the base, we are simply waiting for the inevitable collapse. So, how do we build a life that lasts when the current of the world is pulling us toward the frantic and the temporary? The answer does not lie in more speed. It lies in a different kind of discipline altogether. Consider the ant. It does not wait for a burst of motivation. It does not scan the horizon for a grand moment of inspiration to strike. It simply moves. It traverses the blades of grass, navigating the uneven terrain of the earth, searching for what is required. It gathers. It returns. It repeats. This is the raw, unadorned essence of diligence. Most of us treat our goals like a bonfire that we expect to stay lit on its own, but the truth is far more demanding. Diligence is a fire that must be fed daily, grain by grain, effort by effort. If you stop adding wood, the flame flickers and dies in the cold. But if you persist, showing up when the light is dim and the task is mundane, you are doing something profound. You are stacking the fuel. You are building a thermal mass that becomes impossible to extinguish. Each small, humble act of labor is a piece of wood tossed onto the coals. Over time, the heat grows. It becomes steady. It becomes a permanent source of energy that defines your work, independent of your moods or the shifting winds of the world. We often mistake intensity for progress. It feels productive to sprint, to push until your chest burns, to chase the high of a sudden breakthrough. Intensity is a spark. It is bright, it is loud, and it captures every ounce of your attention. But a spark is fleeting. It consumes its fuel in an instant and leaves nothing behind but ash. You see this in the projects abandoned halfway, the resolutions discarded by February, the grand plans that evaporate the moment the initial adrenaline fades. Intensity is a reaction to circumstance, but diligence is a choice of character. It is an engine. An engine does not rely on the flash of a match to keep moving. It functions through the cold mechanical repetition of pistons firing, valves opening, and gears turning. It demands maintenance. It requires a steady supply of fuel, even when the machine feels heavy or the road ahead is steep. When you shift your focus from the spark to the engine, your entire relationship with time changes. You stop looking for the explosion of success and start looking for the consistent output of effort. You are no longer gambling on a burst of inspiration. You are building a system that works while you sleep, while you struggle, and while you wait. Intensity gives you a moment, but an engine gives you a life. Many believe that if they simply stop moving, they will remain exactly where they are. They pause their efforts, step back from their commitments, and assume they are in a state of rest. This is a dangerous deception. Life is not a stagnant pond. It is a river in constant motion. If you stop rowing, you do not stay in place. You drift. The current of circumstance, the demands of the world, and the erosion of time pull you backward with steady, relentless force. You lose the ground you fought to gain, inch by inch, until the distance between where you are and where you intended to be grows insurmountable. Wisdom demands a different response. Look to the example of the man who built an ark. He did not wait for the clouds to darken or the first drop of rain to strike the dry earth. He picked up his tools while the sun was still high. He measured, he cut, he hammered, and he joined wood to wood. He worked in the silence of a clear sky, preparing for a catastrophe that no one else could see. That is the discipline of the diligent. They do not wait for the crisis to dictate their actions. They build their defense, piece by piece, long before the storm arrives. To work is to secure your future against the current that seeks to pull you under. Building a firm foundation requires more than just the labor of your hands. It demands wisdom in how you manage the fruits of that labor. Consider the farmer who harvests a field. If he consumes the entire yield the moment the silos are full, he faces the next season with empty hands and nothing to plant. He is a prisoner of the present. A wise farmer acts differently. He examines his harvest and sets aside a portion, the seed for the future. He eats less than he grows, intentionally creating a reservoir. Many mistake this practice for deprivation. They see the restraint and call it a loss of joy. They are wrong. This restraint is the creation of margin. Margin is the gap between your income and your consumption. It is the space where security lives. When the unexpected arrives, the sudden emergency, the lean season, the shift in the market, the person with a reservoir does not panic. They have the ability to breathe. They possess the freedom to navigate the storm because they kept what others consumed. True wealth is not measured by the total amount that passes through your fingers, but by the portion you have the discipline to hold. By consuming less than you produce, you transform your labor from a fleeting expense into a permanent, living asset. Having a reservoir is only half the battle. The other half is knowing where to direct your strength. Without a blueprint, energy becomes a wildfire, bright, consuming, and utterly destructive. Observe the person who refuses to plan. They wake up and sprint. Their days a blur of motion, yet they find themselves back at the starting line every single night. They move fast, but they move in circles. They pour their sweat into tasks that possess no structural integrity. They build a wall, realize the foundation is crooked, tear it down, and start again. This is the exhaustion of the aimless. They are constantly busy, yet they produce nothing that lasts. Every hour spent working without a map is an hour squandered on things that will inevitably need to be redone. It is the friction of a life lived in reaction to the immediate instead of in service to the long term. You can run until your lungs burn and your muscles fail, but if your trajectory is unguided, you are only chasing your own tail. The chaos of a life without a plan creates a constant, low-grade panic. You are always catching up, always repairing, and always falling behind the demands of your own making. There is a profound, urgent necessity to pause, to stop the frantic motion, to step back and acknowledge that effort without a guiding design is not progress. It is simply a faster way to reach nowhere. The solution is not more speed, it is the map. To build a life that withstands the wind, you must first commit to the blueprint. Planning is not a cage that limits your freedom. It is the boundary that prevents you from wandering into the abyss. When you sit down to count the cost before you lay a single stone, you are doing more than just calculating materials. You are asserting control over your own trajectory. You are deciding where the structure will stand before the weather tests its integrity. This is the pivot point. When you count the cost, you stop being a victim of your circumstances. You stop responding to every sudden demand as if it were an emergency. Instead, you become the architect of your own time. You move from a state of frantic reaction into a state of deliberate leadership. You no longer allow the day to dictate your output. You dictate the day. By establishing the plan, you transform your energy from a scattered, flickering flame into a focused beam. You see the path ahead, you identify the obstacles before they trip your stride, and you make the necessary trade-offs with your eyes wide open. You are no longer chasing the world, you are building your own place within it. Leadership begins the moment you stop guessing and start measuring. Even with a blueprint in hand and a reservoir secured, the mind remains prone to a subtle, creeping decay, restlessness. You watch others. You measure your progress against their finish line. You see what you lack and call it a deficit. This is the trap of comparison. It is a thief that steals the utility of your own tools. To break this cycle, you must cultivate the soil of the soul gratitude. Think of it as adjusting the focus ring on a camera lens. Before, the image was blurred by the phantom of what you did not possess. You turn the dial. Suddenly, the frame sharpens. You see the value in the materials already resting in your hands. Gratitude does not mean ignoring the need for growth. It means recognizing the sufficiency of your current position. When you stop looking sideways at someone else's progress, you stop wasting energy on envy. You begin to use what you have with excellence. You turn the scarcity you feared into a foundation of enough. The anxiety of comparison dies the moment you accept that your path is yours alone. You take a breath. You look at your tools, your map, and your reservoir. With this clarity, the world ceases to be a list of demands and becomes a landscape of opportunity. You are no longer hungry for what belongs to another. You are ready to cultivate what belongs to you. With your perspective cleared, the focus shifts to the final engine of endurance: consistency. We often fail because we crave the dramatic surge, the singular event that changes everything overnight. We overlook the power of the drop. Imagine a bucket placed under a slow, rhythmic drip. In the first hour, the water level barely rises. It seems trivial. You might even walk away, convinced that your effort is failing because the change is invisible to the naked eye. But you do not stop. You return day after day and keep the vessel positioned. The key is to understand that time is not merely a witness to your work. It is the multiplier of every small action you take. Your consistency is a force that compounds. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the instruction is clear: sow in every season, regardless of the immediate outcome. Do not wait for the perfect harvest. Just keep planting. The drop that seems insignificant today becomes the ocean of your future. You are not building by lightning strike, you are building by accumulation. Every action, no matter how humble, adds to the total. You keep the rhythm, you hold the pace, you trust the process of the drop. Eventually, the weight of those thousands of small, faithful moments creates a pressure that cannot be reversed. You stop looking for the miracle and start building the momentum. We often trap ourselves in the assumption that success demands a different version of our own identity. We look for a hero, someone more talented, more gifted, or more fortunate. This is a mirage. The truth is far more accessible and far more powerful. You do not need to be a hero to build a life that lasts. You only need to show up. Tend to your fire when the wood is scarce. Keep your reservoir when the impulse to consume is loud. Study your map when the path becomes obscured. Cultivate your gratitude when the world demands more. Plant your seeds in every season, regardless of the harvest. Success is not a singular, brilliant event that arrives on a pedestal. It is simply the quiet, unyielding accumulation of necessary actions. It is the thousands of small, faithful days that nobody sees and nobody celebrates. You are the architect of your own endurance. You do not need a grand breakthrough to change your trajectory. You only need the discipline to perform the small, humble acts that define your character. The life you build is not the result of one great day. It is the sum of every day you chose to remain consistent, every day you chose to be faithful, and every day you chose to continue. The foundation is already under your feet. Keep building.